There is one defining truth that separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. One idea that dictates whether you move forward or stay behind. And that idea is this: winners take full responsibility for their lives. Let me tell you something, every single person you admire, every success story you've ever heard, every legend in history, they all share one thing in common. They own their choices. They own their mistakes. They own their future. But most people, they don't. They blame circumstances, they blame bad luck, they blame their past. They give their power away because it's easier to point fingers than to look in the mirror. And that is why so many people stay lost, drifting, waiting, hoping. Winners understand something different. They know that life doesn't owe them anything. They know that change doesn't come from wishing, but from deciding. Deciding that no matter what, they will find a way. That's the difference. That's the idea. And that's what most people refuse to accept. Now, why do most people reject this truth? Because it's hard. Because it's terrifying. Because it forces them to admit that where they are is no one's fault but their own. And that kind of honesty, it's uncomfortable. Fear is the point block. If you take full responsibility, then failure is on you. And that's scary. It's easier to believe that success is luck or that someone else has an advantage you don't. It gives you an excuse to stay the same. Then there's comfort. Comfort is the silent killer of potential. People settle into routines, into mediocrity, into a life that's just good enough. They'd rather stay in a familiar struggle than take the risk of chasing something greater. And then there's denial. The mind is a master of making excuses. It's not the right time. I don't have the resources. I'll start next week. This is how people convince themselves to stay small. Because the truth is, if they admitted they had the power to change, they'd have to do something about it. In action. That's what separates the few from the many. Here's the cost of ignoring this truth. A life of regret. A life of what ifs. A life where you wake up one day and realize you let fear, comfort, and denial steal your future. Think about this. How many people do you know who had big dreams once, who talked about doing something great, who said they wanted more? And yet where are they now? Stuck, frustrated, bitter. Because they never took control, they waited. And waiting kills more dreams than failure ever could. When you refuse to take responsibility, you give up control. You hand your future over to chance. And here's the harsh reality. If you don't control your life, someone else will. Your boss, your circumstances, your fears, your excuses. But here's the good news, it's never too late to decide. Right now, in this moment, you can choose to step up. You can stop running, stop blaming, stop waiting. Because the second you take responsibility is the second you take back your power. Winners aren't special. They aren't lucky. They just make a choice to own their lives, no matter what. So what's it going to be? Let me ask you something. If you had to choose between staying exactly as you are comfortable, predictable, safe, or stepping into something unknown, risky and full of challenges, what would you choose? Most people will tell you they want to grow. They'll say they want to change their lives, build something better, become stronger. But when it's time to act, when it's time to leave comfort behind, they hesitate. Why? Because growth hurts. Growth demands sacrifice. Growth means stepping into discomfort again and again, knowing full well it's going to test you. Comfort is easy. It's familiar. It's the warm bed when your alarm goes off at 5 a.m. It's the excuse you make when you tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. It's the instant gratification of scrolling your phone instead of working on your goals. Comfort tricks you into thinking you have time when in reality, every second you waste in comfort is a second stolen from your potential. Now, here's the hard truth, you don't get both. You don't get comfort and growth. You either choose to stay where you are or you choose to push forward. One gives you safety, the other gives you transformation. So what's it going to be? Think about it. From the moment you were a child, you were taught to stay inside the lines. Follow the rules, and avoid failure at all costs. School conditions you to fear mistakes. Society tells you to play it safe, get a secure job, follow the path that everyone else is walking. And look where that path leads, a life of good enough. A life where people settle for mediocrity because they're too afraid to take risks. A life where people choose comfort over dreams because they've been taught that dreams are unrealistic. But let me tell you something, everything you admire, every great achievement, every success story, every innovation was built by someone who rejected that conditioning. They chose to struggle. They chose to be misunderstood. They chose growth over comfort. Think of any legend you respect. Michael Jordan didn't stay comfortable. He was cut from his high school basketball team, but instead of quitting, he doubled down. Elon Musk didn't stay comfortable. He went from sleeping on office floors to building billion-dollar companies. Oprah didn't stay comfortable. She faced rejection after rejection, but refused to be defined by her circumstances. These people didn't have superpowers. They weren't chosen by fate. They simply made a decision, growth over comfort. And that's a decision you have to make for yourself. Now, before we go any further, let's pause for a second, because this isn't for everyone. Not everyone is ready to hear this. Some people will hear these words and find an excuse. They'll say, that's easy for you to say, or my situation is different. But here's what I need you to ask yourself: are you actually willing to do what it takes? Or do you just like the idea of change? Because there's a difference. Do you want success? Or do you want to avoid the work it requires? Do you want to be disciplined? Or do you want to stay in your old habits? Do you want to be great? Or do you want to stay comfortable? If you're ready to grow, you need to start being brutally honest with yourself. No more blaming your circumstances, no more waiting for the perfect moment, no more excuses. Growth is there for the taking, but only for those who are willing to fight for it. So what's your answer? Are you ready, or are you just pretending? Let me ask you something. Why is it that some people seem to rise above every obstacle while others stay stuck year after year? Why do some people turn failures into stepping stones while others see them as dead ends? The ultra-successful think differently. They see the game of life for what it really is: a game of strategy, resilience, and relentless action. They understand that success isn't an accident. It isn't a mystery. It's a formula. And that formula has nothing to do with luck, talent, or waiting for the right opportunity. The majority of people live on autopilot. They wake up, go to work, complain about their circumstances, and repeat. But the ultra-successful, they don't wait for life to happen to them. They create life on their terms. While others focus on why things won't work, they focus on how to make things work. While others make excuses, they execute. While others seek comfort, they seek growth. If you want to change your life, you need to start thinking like the people who have already done it. You need to shift your perspective from hoping to expecting, from reacting to creating. Because the truth is, success leaves clues. And if you learn to see those clues, you can rewrite your entire future. Breakthroughs don't happen by accident. They don't happen overnight. And they don't happen because someone got lucky. They happen because of patterns of thought, patterns of behavior, patterns of discipline. You see, every major transformation, whether it's in business, sports, health, or personal growth, follows a blueprint. The people who break through are the ones who master that blueprint. They understand that success is just the result of compounded effort over time. It's not one big moment. It's the small daily choices that add up. Think about every champion, every self-made millionaire, every industry leader. They all have one thing in common: consistency. They don't just work hard when they feel like it. They don't just push forward when things are easy. They build habits that keep them moving forward no matter what. Let me give you an example. You've heard of Michael Jordan. The greatest basketball player of all time wasn't born great. He didn't even make his high school varsity team at first. But what did he do? He outworked everyone. He didn't just practice when the coach was watching. He practiced when no one was watching. That's a pattern. That's what leads to breakthroughs. Most people stop when they hit resistance. They think, maybe this isn't meant for me, but the ultra-successful, they see resistance as a signal that they're on the right path. That breakthrough is just beyond the struggle. So ask yourself, are your daily actions moving you toward a breakthrough or keeping you in the same place? Because transformation isn't a matter of chance. It's a matter of patterns. Most people believe in a lie that keeps them small, that keeps them stuck, that keeps them making excuses. That lie. That success is about talent. That it's about being naturally gifted. Let me tell you something: talent is overrated. Intelligence is useless without execution. And luck. Luck is just what happens when preparation meets opportunity. How many people do you know who are smart but going nowhere? How many talented people waste their potential? How many people wait for the perfect moment instead of creating it? The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards results, and results come from discipline, from effort, from resilience. Not from some magical gift you were born with. Let's look at the facts. Elon Musk. He didn't start out as a billionaire genius. He started out coding in his room for hours a day. Oprah. She wasn't handed success. She built it from the ground up after being told she wasn't good enough for TV. The Rock. He wasn't born successful. He was broke, living in a tiny apartment and grinding every single day to make something of himself. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't talent, it's hunger. It's obsession. It's the ability to get on and keep moving forward. So stop waiting for a sign. Stop thinking you need to be naturally great. Because the truth is, the moment you decide to go all in, to outlast the going on around you, that's the moment you start winning. The question is, will you step up? Or will you keep making excuses? Let me tell you something, most people are running from the truth. Not because they can't handle it, but because it's easier to pretend it doesn't exist. It's easier to point fingers, to blame circumstances, to believe that life is just unfair. But here's the brutal truth, no one is coming to save you. No one owes you a damn thing. And the longer you avoid this reality, the longer you stay stuck. Look around. How many people do you know who complain about their situation but do nothing to change it? How many people are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or for someone to come along and fix everything for them? That moment never comes. The world keeps moving. And those who take action, those who take it to truth, are the ones who rise. The ones who don't, they stay exactly where they are, making the same excuses year after year. You have two choices. You can keep avoiding the truth, pretending that life is happening to you, or you can face it head on and take control. Because the truth isn't your enemy, it's your greatest weapon. It forces you to wake up, to stop waiting, and to start building the life you want. But that only happens when you have the courage to look in the mirror and admit, it's on me. How many times have you caught yourself saying, I'll start when I have more support, or I just need someone to give me a chance? Let me be clear, help isn't a plan. Hope is a strategy. And waiting is the fastest way to nowhere. The people who win in life don't wait for permission. They don't wait for someone to believe in them. They don't wait for the stars to align. They create their own opportunities. They move forward even when no one is clapping for them, even when the odds are against them. Because they understand one thing, waiting is a trap. The longer you wait, the more time you waste. And wasted time is the one thing you can never get back. Think about every successful person you admire. Do you think they sat around waiting for someone to pull them up? No. They pushed through rejection. They worked in the dark when no one was watching. They didn't ask for permission to be great, they decided to be great. If you're waiting for someone to come along and give you the green light, understand this, the green light may never come. You have to start anyway. You have to trust yourself, bet on yourself, and move even when it's uncomfortable. Because the only person who can change your life is you. Embracing radical responsibility, the mindset shift that changes everything. This is where everything shifts. This is the line in the sand. Because once you embrace radical responsibility, everything changes. This means owning your choices, your actions, and your result completely. No more blaming, no more waiting, no more excuses. Most people live in reaction mode. They react to problems, to other people's opinions, to setbacks. But the ones who succeed, they take control. They don't wait for perfect conditions, they create them. They don't waste time complaining, they find solutions. They don't let their past define them, they rewrite their story. Here's the truth. You might have been dealt a bad hand. You might have people betray you, leave you, or doubt you, but none of that changes what you have to do next. Because the moment you take responsibility for everything in your life, not just the good, but everything, you take back your power. Radical responsibility means no more excuses, no more blaming the past, the economy, your parents, your boss, or your circumstances. It means saying, this is my life, and I am in charge of it. And when you do that, something incredible happens. You stop feeling helpless. You stop waiting, and you start building. This mindset shift is the foundation of success. It's the difference between those who stay stuck and those who break through. So ask yourself, are you ready to own your life? Are you ready to take control? Because the second you do, nothing will ever be the same again. Let's get one thing straight. Blaming others is easy. It's comfortable. It makes you feel justified. When things go wrong, the instinct to point fingers is natural. It was my parents. It was my boss. It was the government. It was bad luck. But let me tell you something. Every second you spend blaming something outside of yourself is a second you surrender control of your life. Because if someone else is responsible, then you're powerless to change it. And that, my friend, is the biggest trap of all. Think about it. If the problem is always external, then the solution is out of your hands. You're waiting for something or someone to change instead of taking action yourself. But what if I told you that waiting is the same as wasting? Wasting your energy, wasting your time, wasting your life. The truth is, life is unfair. People will betray you. Circumstances won't always be in your favor. But the moment you stop looking for someone to blame and start asking, what can I do? That's when everything shifts. Because control isn't about what happens to you. It's about how you respond. And that response, that's all on you. Now let's talk about something that's keeping too many people stuck, the victim mentality. It's a silent thief. It robs you of your potential, and the worst part, you don't even notice it happening. Victim mentality is sneaky. It disguises itself as logic. Oh, I can't because. It's not my fault because. There's nothing I can do because. But here's the brutal truth. As long as you believe you're a victim, you'll act like one. And when you act like one, you become one. Look around. The world is full of people who've been through hell. Abuse, poverty, loss, betrayal. Some stay stuck in their pain, using it as a reason why they can't move forward. Others take that same pain and use it as fuel to rise higher than anyone expected. What's the difference? Mindset. I'm not saying your struggles aren't real. I'm not saying what happened to you doesn't matter, but I am saying this. If you let your past define your future, you're giving it permission to control you. And that's not power, that's surrender. You have two choices. Stay trapped in the mindset that the world owes you something, or wake up and realize that no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you success, happiness, or freedom. Those things are earned. And the first step to earning them, letting go of the idea that you're helpless. Let's get real. Your past has shaped you, but it does not own you. Whatever pain, mistakes, or struggles you face, they are not a life sentence unless you choose to stay locked in them. Picture this. You're carrying a heavy backpack full of every failure, regret, and hurt you've ever experienced. Now imagine trying to run toward your future with all that weight on your shoulders. Impossible, right? But here's the crazy part. You're the one choosing to carry it. Listen, you can't change the past. You can't go back and rewrite history. But what you can do is refuse to let it dictate your future. Because the only thing keeping you stuck in that prison is the belief that you belong there. And you don't. Think about people who've turned their pain into power. Oprah Winfrey was abused as a child. She could stay trapped in that story, but she didn't. She built an empire. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He could have let anger and bitterness destroy him, but he didn't. He led a nation. And you have that same choice, to let your past be your anchor or your launch pad. The key is in your hands. The question is, are you ready to unlock the door and walk through it? Because the moment you decide your past is not your prison, that's the moment you set yourself free. Let me ask you something. How much of your life is truly yours? How many of your decisions are made by you, not by fear, not by doubt, not by what someone else expects of you, but by you? If you're like most people, the answer is unsettling. Every single day, millions of people wake up and live a life they never really chose. They stay in jobs they hate, they hold back on their dreams, they silence their own desires, not because they want to, but because fear, doubt, and external influences dictate their every move. Fear whispers, what if you fail? What if people laugh? And so they stay put, doing the same thing, playing it safe, never risking, never growing. Doubt adds its voice. Are you even good enough? Do you really think you can do this? And just like that, potential is crushed before it ever had the chance to become something real. Then come the external influences, the voices of others, the weight of expectations. That's not practical. Be realistic. People like you don't do things like that. Society molds us, shapes us, clips our wings before we even try to fly, tells us what's acceptable, what's smart, what's responsible. And before we know it, we're living a life designed by someone else's fears instead of our own ambitions. But let me tell you something. Fear, doubt, and external influences are only as powerful as you allow them to be. They don't have real control. They only have the power you give them. And if you let them dictate your choices, you will wake up one day with regret so heavy it will crush you. Society teaches us to stay in line. Don't rock the boat. Don't stand out. Play it safe. Get a steady job. Follow the routine. Don't question too much. But here's the truth. Society's expectations are not designed for your success. They're designed for stability, for predictability, for keeping everything in order. That might work for the masses, but if you want more from life, you have to break out of that system. Comfort is another silent controller. Comfort feels good. It's warm, it's familiar, it's easy. But comfort is the enemy of progress. Nothing great ever came from staying comfortable. Every success story, every breakthrough, every major transformation happens when someone steps out of their comfort zone and into the unknown. Comfort keeps you where you are, growth takes you where you're meant to be, and then there are limiting beliefs. The invisible chains that hold you down. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I don't have the resources. These beliefs are lies. They are nothing but thoughts you've repeated to yourself so many times that you started believing them. But here's the secret. You are not your thoughts. You are not your fears. You are not the opinions of others. You're the actions you take, the risks you embrace, and the decisions you make. Now comes the hard part, taking back control. Because let's be clear, if you don't take control of your life, someone else will. Fear will, society will, doubt will, and they don't care about your happiness, they only care about keeping you small. So how do you take the wheel? First, recognize the lies. Every fear, every doubt, every external voice telling you that you can't. Question it, who told you that? Why do you believe it? Is it actually true, or have you just accepted it as truth? Next, disrupt the pattern. If you've been playing it safe, take a risk. If you've been hesitating, take action. Even a small step in the right direction is progress. If you want to start a business, don't wait for the perfect moment. Start researching, start networking, start something. If you want to change careers, don't tell yourself it's impossible. Start learning, start applying, start moving. And finally, make a decision. Not just a half-hearted wish, not just a vague hope, a real decision. Decide that fear will not rule your life. Decide that doubt will not silence you. Decide that your dreams are worth more than your excuses. Because here's the truth. The life you want isn't waiting for you to be ready. It's waiting for you to decide. So decide. Take the wheel. Reclaim your power. And start living like you mean it. Let me tell you a story. A real one. No fluff, no fiction, just raw. Undeniable truth. There was a man named David Goggins. Maybe you've heard of him. Maybe you haven't. But his story is the blueprint for rejecting excuses and transforming into something greater. David wasn't born extraordinary. He wasn't a champion from the start. In fact, he was the exact opposite. He was overweight, struggling, stuck in a job he hated, and drowning in self-doubt. He had every excuse at his fingertips, a rough childhood, financial struggles, a body that felt like a prison. And for years he let those excuses define him. But one day something clicked. He looked in the mirror and saw the truth. His life wasn't in anyone else's hands. It was in his. He made a choice, and that choice was brutal. No more excuses. No more feeling sorry for himself. No more waiting for a miracle. He lost over 100 pounds in 3 months to qualify for Navy SEAL training. He failed, got back up, failed again, and kept going. He endured unimaginable pain, broken bones, and sleepless nights, yet he refused to quit. Today, he's one of the toughest endurance athletes on the planet and a symbol of unbreakable willpower. Now let me ask you, what's your excuse? What's stopping you from becoming the person you know you can be? Because here's the truth, your obstacles are real, but so is your power to overcome them. And just like David, you have a choice to make. Right here, right now. There's a mindset that separates those who break free from those who stay trapped. If you want to know the difference, listen carefully. First, they take ownership. No blaming, no finger pointing, no waiting for someone to save them. They accept full responsibility for where they are and where they're going. Life didn't deal them a fair hand, so what? They play the cards they have and learn to win with them. Second, they embrace discomfort. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when you step into the fire, push past your limits, and do what others won't. The ones who escape victimhood don't look for the easy way out, they look for the way forward, no matter how hard it is. Third, they control their inner dialogue. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. The people who rise above their struggles refuse to let negativity win. They rewire their thinking, silence that says I can't, and replace it with watch me. Finally, they take relentless action. They don't wait until they feel ready. They don't wait for motivation to strike. They move, they grind, they push even when they're tired, even when they're scared, even when no one believes in them. Because they understand one thing, nothing changes unless they do. If you want to break free, follow these patterns. Own your life. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Master your mind. And above all, act. Because the only way out is through. Right now you stand at a crossroads. Two paths lie ahead. One leads to the same cycle you've been trapped in. The other leads to something greater. And the only thing that determines which road you take is a single decision. Are you ready to make the shift? Because here's the thing, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to do the work for you. And no, life isn't suddenly going to become easier, but you can become stronger. You can become the person who refuses to quit, who rises above, who takes control. That shift doesn't happen tomorrow. It doesn't happen next week, it happens now. The moment you decide that your excuses are no longer bigger than your dreams, the moment you stop saying I wish and start saying I will. So what's it going to be? Or are you going to keep living the same story, telling yourself the same lies, repeating the same patterns? Or are you going to rewrite your future starting today? The choice is yours. But remember this, every second you wait is another second wasted. And the longer you wait, the harder it gets. Decide, commit. Because your turning point isn't somewhere down the road, it's right here, right now. Every single day you stand at a crossroads, whether you realize it or not, you're making a choice. A choice between staying where you are comfortable, predictable, stagnant, or stepping into something greater, something unknown, something transformative. And let me tell you, that choice defines everything. Think about this, how many times have you told yourself, I want more? More success, more happiness, more fulfillment, but wanting isn't enough. If it were, everyone would be at the top of their game. The difference between those who thrive and those who merely exist is action. The willingness to make a decision, to break old patterns, and to step forward even when it's uncomfortable. Because here's the truth, stagnation isn't just standing still, it's sinking. The world moves forward, whether you do or not. If you refuse to grow, to evolve, to challenge yourself, you're not just staying the same, you're falling behind. So ask yourself right now, are you going to stay where it's safe, or are you going to choose transformation? Because make no mistake, it is a choice. And the people who change their lives, they make it deliberately. Let me tell you something, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to hand you success, happiness, or purpose on a silver platter. If you're waiting for permission, for perfect timing, for someone to push you forward, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. The only person responsible for your future is you. That might sound harsh, but it's the most freeing truth you'll ever hear. Because if it's up to you, that means you have the power. No more blaming circumstances, no more pointing fingers, no more excuses. The moment you take full responsibility for where you are is the moment you take full control over where you're going. Think of the most successful people in the world. Did they get there by luck? No, they got there by making choices, daily disciplined choices. They own their failures, they own their mistakes, they learn from them and move forward. When you take ownership of your life, doors open that you never even saw before. Opportunities reveal themselves because you're no longer waiting, you're creating. So I ask you, are you willing to take full responsibility for your life? Because if you are, there are no limits to what you can achieve. Be honest with yourself right now. Are you truly stuck, or are you choosing to be stuck? Because most of the time what we call stuck is actually just fear in disguise. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping into something new and not knowing what comes next. Think about it, how many times have you told yourself, I can't do this, when the truth is you haven't even tried? How many times have you said, I don't have the time, when the truth is you haven't made the time? We create our own cages, then convince ourselves we're trapped. But here's the thing, there's always a way forward. Always, it may not be easy, it may not be comfortable, but it exists. And the only way to find it is to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start moving with what you have. Small steps, big leaps, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you move. So ask yourself right now, are you really stuck? Or have you been standing still out of fear, doubt, or hesitation? Because the second you decide to move, you'll realize you were never trapped at all, you just needed to take the first step. Every second you spend doubting, overthinking, or waiting for the right time is a second you'll never get back. Time doesn't pause just because you're unsure. It moves forward with or without you. And the truth, the longer you hesitate, the further you fall behind. Think about this. While you're debating whether to take action, someone else is already out there doing it. While you're questioning if you're ready, someone else who is just as scared as you has already taken the leap. The difference isn't talent. It isn't intelligence, it's action. Life doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It doesn't pause for you to feel confident. You don't get extra time just because you're nervous. What you do get, however, is regret if you let hesitation hold you back. Because here's the harsh truth. Every moment spent waiting is a moment spent losing. There's a price for doing nothing, and it's higher than you think. When you hesitate, you don't just stay in the same place. You move backward. Opportunities don't sit around forever waiting for you to be ready. Growth doesn't happen in stillness. And dreams fade when they aren't pursued. Imagine the job you didn't apply for because you weren't sure if you were qualified. The idea you never started because you were afraid it might fail. The relationship you never pursued because you feared rejection. What could have been if you had just taken the shot. That's the real cost of inaction, the life you never got to live. History doesn't remember those who almost took a chance. Success doesn't come to those who wait forever. It comes to those who move, who try, who step forward even when they don't feel 100% ready. You don't have to be fearless, you just have to be willing. Let's be real. If you don't do it now, what makes you think you'll do it later? Will change. More time won't magically give you confidence. More waiting won't make fear disappear. People love to say, I'll start next week. I'll do it when I have more time. I'll try when I feel more prepared. But let me ask you, how many times have you said that before? And how many times did next time turn into never? One day you're going to wake up and realize that the later you were counting on never arrived. The window closed. The chance is gone. Let's say you knew you wouldn't see it. It's deadly capture. It's an existence. It's not luck. It's not fate. And it's definitely not something that just happens to a chosen few. Success follows patterns. If you look at the people who take control of their lives and achieve extraordinary things, you'll see undeniable, repeatable patterns in how they think, how they act, and how they respond to obstacles. These people refuse to let circumstances define them. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait for motivation. They act. They move forward, even when they don't feel ready, even when they're scared, even when everything inside them is screaming to stay in their comfort zone. Because they know something that most people don't. Motion creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Look at anyone who has ever changed their life. The ones who went from broke to financially free. The ones who went from overweight and unhealthy to strong and confident. The ones who built empires from nothing. They didn't sit around hoping for a miracle. They didn't blame their past, their parents, the economy, or their circumstances. They took responsibility. They looked in the mirror and said, if my life is going to change, I have to be the one to change it. Because here's the truth. If you don't take control of your life, someone else will. Your job, your circumstances, your fears, and even other people will dictate your future unless you step up and claim it for yourself. Let's talk about real change. Not theory, not wishful thinking, real transformation. There's a story about a man named David Goggins. If you don't know who he is, listen closely. He was overweight, out of shape, working a dead-end job, and drowning in excuses. He could have stayed there. Most people would have. But one day he made a decision. He got sick of his own excuses, sick of being the guy who always talked about changing but never did. So he did something most people are too afraid to do. He got uncomfortable. He pushed himself beyond what he thought was possible, and today, he's an ultra-endurance athlete, a best-selling author, a retired Navy SEAL, and one of the toughest people on the planet. What changed? His mind. He stopped waiting, he stopped blaming, he stopped living passively and took control. But this isn't just about famous people. Maybe you know someone who turned their life around. Maybe it's a single mother who built a business from nothing. Maybe it's a friend who lost 50 pounds because they finally stopped making excuses. Maybe it's you, or the version of you that's waiting to be unleashed. Here's the lesson. Transformation is always possible, no matter where you're starting from, no matter how many times you've failed. But the shift has to happen inside you first. You have to stop waiting for change and start creating it. Why do some people break free while others stay stuck? What is the difference between those who rise and those who remain exactly where they are? A single decision. The decision to stop waiting, the decision to stop blaming, the decision to take control. Because the truth is, most people never actually decide to change. They wish, they hope, they say things like, someday I'll get in shape, one day I'll start that business, I should really work on my mindset, but they never commit. And that's why they stay stuck. Look at anyone who has changed their life, and you will see one defining moment, one moment where they drew a line in the sand and said, enough is enough. I am done living like this. And from that moment forward, their actions backed up their words. So let me ask you, have you decided, or are you still hoping? Because if you haven't made that decision yet, nothing else matters. Motivation won't save you. Inspiration won't change you. Only action will. You have the power to rewrite your story right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when life gets easier, now. So what's it going to be? The painful reality check, looking back at wasted time. Let's get real for a moment. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and think back over the last few years of your life. How many times have you said, I'll start tomorrow? How many opportunities have you let slip by because you were too afraid, too distracted, or too comfortable? How many dreams have you pushed aside, convincing yourself that you'd get to them eventually? That eventually is a lie, it's a trap, it's the soft pillow you rest on while time steals your potential right from under you. Every moment spent waiting is a moment lost. And here's the truth most people don't want to face. Time doesn't care. It doesn't pause while you gather courage. It doesn't wait while you make excuses. It keeps moving with or without you. The weight of regret is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry. And the worst part, it doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in slowly, like a shadow stretching across your life, showing you everything you could have been, everything you could have done if only you had started sooner. Maybe you've wasted time, maybe you've let fear control you, but let me tell you something. You don't have to stay there. The past is a lesson, not a life sentence. The question is, what are you going to do now? There's a moment when everything changes. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's a decision. A shift in mindset that flips hesitation into action. You see, most people hesitate because they're waiting for confidence. They think motivation is something they need to find. But confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. And motivation, it follows action, not the other way around. Think of it like this. If you stand at the edge of a pool, waiting to feel ready to jump in, you'll be there all day. But the moment you take the leap, your body adapts. You stop thinking about the temperature, the depth, the what ifs, you just start swimming. That's how change happens. Not by thinking about it, but by doing it. The people who succeed in life are not the ones who never feel fear or doubt. They are the ones who act despite it. They don't negotiate with their excuses. They don't wait for the stars to align. They move. And every step they take makes the next one easier. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your biggest enemy. The voice that tells you to wait, to hesitate, to second guess, that voice is not your friend. Silence it with action. Train your brain to recognize hesitation as a signal, not to stop, but to go. The moment you catch yourself waiting, that's the exact moment you need to move. Because if you don't, hesitation will turn into inaction. And inaction, that's just another word for failure. Today is the day to draw the line. Will you step over it? Enough talk, enough waiting, enough someday. This is the moment where you draw the line. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Think of this line as the divide between the version of you who hesitates and the version of you who takes control. The version who watches from the sidelines and the one who steps into the game. The version filled with regret and the one who builds a life they're proud of. There is no magic moment. There is no perfect time. There is only now. And the only thing standing between you and the life you want is a decision. Step over that line. Make the choice. Not because you feel ready, but because you refuse to stay stuck. Because the pain of staying the same is greater than the fear of change. Whether you step over the line, or will you look back years from now, wishing you had, the moment everything changes, when you stop hesitating, let me tell you something, your life is waiting on you. Start to find the line. The moment everything changes, when you stop hesitating, let me tell you something, your life is waiting on you. The moment everything changes is not some magical distant event. It's not a lucky break, a perfect opportunity, or a sign from the universe. It's the second you decide to stop hesitating. That's it. One moment, one choice, and everything shifts. Hesitation is the silent thief of dreams. It whispers doubts in your ear, making you question your abilities, your readiness, your worth. And while you sit there waiting for clarity, waiting for certainty, life keeps moving forward without you. Think about the times you held back, an opportunity you didn't take, a conversation you didn't have, a risk you were too afraid to embrace. Now imagine if you had acted instead of hesitated. Where would you be right now? How much further would you have come? Successful people are not the ones who never feel fear. They are the ones who move despite it. They understand that hesitation is nothing but an illusion of safety. a cage that keeps you locked in place. And the only way out is to act, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because the truth is, your life won't wait for you to be ready. And if you don't take control, hesitation will. How many times have you told yourself, I'll do it when I'm ready? I'll start when the time is right. Let me save you some time. The perfect moment does not exist. If you keep waiting for all the lights to turn green before you start driving, you'll never leave your driveway. The right time is an illusion, a comfortable excuse that keeps you from stepping into the unknown. The longer you wait, the more reasons you'll find to delay. The more you delay, the harder it gets to begin. And before you know it, months turn into years, and you're standing in the same place, wondering where all the time went. Look at the people who inspire you. Do you think they had perfect conditions when they started? Do you think they had every answer, every skill, every resource lined up? No. They started when it was messy, when it was uncertain, when they had no guarantee of success. And that's exactly why they succeeded, because they moved when others hesitated. The only time that matters is now. Not when you feel ready, not when it's convenient, not when you have everything figured out. Now! Because if you don't take that step today, chances are you never will. One decision separates you from the person you want to become. If I could sum up success in one word, it would be this: decision. Your future isn't shaped by luck, talent, or circumstances. It's shaped by a single, powerful decision. The decision to act. Right now, there's a version of you that has everything you want. The confidence, the success, the discipline, the life you dream of. And the only thing standing between you and that version of yourself is a decision. Decide to stop making excuses. Decide to start even when you don't feel ready. Decide that your fear of staying the same is greater than your fear of failing. Because the truth is, your life is always one decision away from being completely different. One decision to get up earlier. One decision to take a chance. One decision to stop letting fear call the shots. So the question is, what are you going to decide right now? Will you keep waiting, hesitating, and hoping? Or will you make the decision that changes everything? Because in the end, you are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your choices. And your next choice, that's what defines you. Let me tell you something. Your words are more powerful than you realize. They shape your thoughts, your actions, and ultimately your reality. Every time you speak, you are programming your mind. The question is, what are you programming it for? Success, growth, strength? Or are you programming it for failure, excuses, and limitations? Think about it. How often do you say things like, I'm not good at this, I'll never be able to do that, or that's just the way I am? You're not just stating facts, you're reinforcing beliefs. And beliefs dictate actions. The more you repeat these words, the deeper they sink into your subconscious. Before you know it, they become your truth. But here's the good news. You can flip the script. You can rewrite the narrative. Instead of saying, I can't, start asking, how can I? I can't is a dead end. It shuts the door. It leaves no room for possibility, no space for growth. But how can I? It's a game changer. It forces your brain to search for solutions. It shifts your mindset from limitation to opportunity. Look at the world's greatest innovators, leaders, and achievers. Do you think they never faced obstacles? Of course they did. The difference is that they didn't let those obstacles define them. They didn't say, this is impossible. They asked, how can I make this possible? Edison didn't say, I can't make a light bulb work. He said, how can I make it work? And after thousands of failed attempts, he found a way. Oprah didn't say, I can't overcome my tough childhood. She asked, how can I rise above it? And she built an empire. Your circumstances don't define you, your response does. So next time you catch yourself saying, I can't, stop, take a breath, rephrase it. How can I? Watch what happens. Your brain will start looking for answers, and suddenly doors you thought were locked will start opening. Your beliefs are the foundation of your life. They dictate what you attempt, what you avoid, and ultimately what you achieve. And the truth is, most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or resources. They fail because they believe they can't win. Henry Ford said it best, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It's not just a quote, it's a fact. Your mind listens to what you tell it. If you believe there's no way forward, your mind will stop looking. But if you believe there's a solution, even when you don't see it yet, your mind will keep searching until it finds one. Think about a time when you felt stuck, maybe financially, in your career, or in your personal life. What changed? The situation or the way you approached it? More often than not, the breakthrough came when you started asking different questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me, you ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of, why do I always fail, you ask, how can I do better next time? The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. So ask wisely, ask with belief, ask like someone who expects an answer. Because the moment you change the way you speak, you change the way you think, and when you change the way you think, you change everything. Doubt versus action, the seeds you plant determine the life you live. Let me tell you something. Your life is a reflection of the seeds you plant every single day. Doubt and action are two opposing forces, two different seeds. One leads to hesitation, stagnation, and missed opportunities. The other leads to growth, progress, and transformation. And you are the one who decides which one takes root in your mind. Think about it. Every time you hesitate, every time you second guess yourself, every time you let fear make your choices, you are planting the seed of doubt. And doubt doesn't stay small, it grows roots. It spreads. It becomes the voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, you'll fail, why even try? And before you know it, you're stuck in the same place watching opportunities pass you by. But action is a different kind of seed. Action doesn't care if you're scared. Action doesn't need permission, it just needs a decision. A single step forward, even when you don't feel ready. A single yes when everything in you wants to hesitate. That's how you plant the seed of momentum, of courage, of success. Because every great achievement started with one decision to act. You want to change your life? Stop waiting, stop doubting, start planting the right seeds. Every choice you make is a seed. What you plant today is what you will harvest tomorrow. How negativity spreads like weeds, suffocating your potential. You ever notice how easy it is for negativity to spread? How one bad thought turns into 10, how one bad day turns into a bad week, a bad month, a bad year. That's because negativity is like weeds. It doesn't need permission, it doesn't need effort, it just takes over. You let one doubt in, and soon it multiplies. You let one failure define you, and suddenly you believe success isn't possible. You listen to one negative voice, and soon you hear it in everything you do. Weeds don't stop growing on their own. They don't respect your dreams. They don't care about your goals. If you don't pull them out, if you don't actively remove negativity, it will choke the life out of your potential. Think about the people you spend time with. Are they lifting you up or dragging you down? Think about the thoughts you repeat to yourself. Are they pushing you forward or holding you back? Because just like weeds can destroy a beautiful garden, negativity can destroy your future. You have to be intentional. You have to protect your mindset. You have to pull out the weeds before they take over. And you do that by choosing what you feed your mind. Choose encouragement over criticism. Choose belief over fear. Choose growth over comfort. Because if you don't control your thoughts will control you. The daily habits that cultivate confidence and growth. Confidence isn't something you wake up with, it's something you build. And growth doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of what you do every single day. Success, confidence, strength, resilience. These aren't traits you're born with, they're habits you create. Every time you show up for yourself, you build confidence. Every time you do what you said you would do, you build trust in yourself. Every time you push past resistance, you build strength. But it's not about big leaps. It's about small, consistent actions that add up over time. You want to grow? Stop focusing on motivation and start focusing on habits. Motivation is unreliable, it fades. But habits will carry you through when motivation is gone. Get up early, move your body, read, learn, take action, even when you don't feel like it. Keep promises to yourself. Do the hard things, the uncomfortable things, the things that stretch you. Because every action you take is either strengthening you or weakening you. Every decision is shaping your future. Confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. Growth isn't something that happens to you, it's something you build. Your habits define your future. So choose them wisely. Visualizing your highest potential. Why it's more than just a dream. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly saw yourself at your highest potential? Not just a fleeting thought, not just a wish, but a vivid, detailed vision of who you could be if you gave it everything you had. Most people don't realize this, but your mind is the blueprint of your future. Everything you will ever achieve starts as a vision in your head. The problem? Too many people treat their highest potential like a fantasy instead of a target. They see greatness as something reserved for special people, for those with better luck, better resources, better circumstances. That is a lie. Every champion, every leader, every success story you admire started in the same place, a vision. They saw their potential before anyone else did. They believed in that version of themselves before anyone else would. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent, it's the ability to commit to that vision long before reality confirms it. So the question isn't whether you have potential, you do. The question is, do you believe in it enough to make it real? Because a vision without action is just daydreaming. But a vision with relentless pursuit, that's how you change your life. The fastest way to bridge the gap between who you are and who you want to be, here's the brutal truth. The person you want to become is not waiting for you at the end of some lucky break. They're not magically appearing when the timing is right. That version of you is built by the choices you make every single day. If you want to bridge the gap between who you are and who you could be, you have to start living as that person now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel like it, right now. It means asking yourself every day, what would the best version of me do in this moment? Would they hit snooze or get up and own their morning? Would they make excuses or make progress? Would they waste time on distractions or invest it in their goals? Success isn't some distant event, it's a daily habit. The fastest way to become your best self is to stop waiting and start acting like them today. Look at anyone who has transformed their life, whether it's someone who lost 100 pounds, built a business from nothing, or went from rock bottom to the top. They didn't wake up one day and suddenly arrive at success. They became the person who could handle that success long before they had it. You have to shift from I wish I was that person to I am becoming that person, one decision at a time. And when you do that, the gap starts to close faster than you ever imagined. The challenge. Are you willing to do what it takes to meet that version of yourself? This is where most people quit. Because when you truly commit to reaching your highest potential, you realize something. It's not easy. It will demand sacrifices. It will force you out of comfort. It will require you to let go of habits, excuses, and mindsets that have held you back for years. So here's the challenge. Are you willing to do what it takes? Not just when it's convenient, not just when it feels good, every single day. Because the truth is, most people won't. Most people will shrink when things get hard. They will justify staying the same because change is uncomfortable. They will settle for good enough because greatness takes work. But you are not most people. You wouldn't still be listening if you were. Something inside you is telling you that you were made for more. And that voice, that's your future self calling you forward. The question is, will you answer? Because on the other side of discipline, discomfort, and hard choices is the life you were meant to live. The version of you that you dream about. They're not impossible to reach. They're waiting for you to step up. Fear. It's a quiet dictator ruling your life from the shadows. It doesn't need chains or walls. It works with whispers, hesitation, and doubt. Fear keeps you comfortable, safe, but also stuck. You don't even notice it most of the time because it disguises itself as logic, as practicality. It says, that's too risky, what if you fail? People will judge you. And before you know it, you've built a life inside an invisible cage, never stepping beyond what's familiar. You convince yourself that you're being responsible, that you're waiting for the right time, that you just need more experience, more confidence, more money, more of something. But in reality, what you need is courage. Because fear isn't protecting you, it's controlling you. Let me ask you something. How many times have you stopped yourself from taking a leap because of what ifs? How many dreams have you shelved because fear convinced you they weren't realistic? Fear is like a parasite. It feeds on hesitation, on doubt, on every moment you choose safety over growth. And the worst part, you don't even realize how much it's running your life until you stop and look back at all the things you never tried. You were not born to live inside a cage. You were not made to tiptoe through life, avoiding failure at all costs. And let me tell you something. If you never fail, you're not even trying. The real prison isn't failure, it's never daring to begin. Every fear you have is a story, a script that plays in your head over and over, convincing you of your limits. Maybe it started in childhood, someone told you that you weren't smart enough, strong enough, talented enough. Maybe it came from experience. You failed once and now you believe you always will. But here's the truth. Every story can be rewritten. Think about the people who have changed the world. Edison, Oprah, Steve Jobs, J.K. Rowling. Do you know what they all have in common? They refused to accept fear's story. They rewrote their failures into lessons, their doubts into motivation. They could have let fear define them, but instead they chose to define themselves, and you can too. But first you need to stop letting fear narrate your life. Next time you hear that voice telling you that you can't, ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this just a story I've been told? Let's get real for a second. Fear will never fully disappear. It's always going to be there, whispering, nudging, trying to keep you small. But you don't have to listen. You can acknowledge it, nod your head, and then move forward anyway. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck, success isn't about luck. It isn't about talent. It isn't even about intelligence. The real difference between those who succeed and those who stuck is simple. Successful people act despite fear, while others let it stop them. Everyone feels fear. Everyone has doubts. The only difference is that some people refuse to let those doubts control them. They take the leap. They risk looking foolish. They risk failing, and because of that, they grow. Meanwhile, the ones who's unstuck, they wait. They wait for confidence, for certainty, for a sign. They wait until fear magically disappears, except it never does. So they stay in the same job they hate. They hold on to the same excuses. They dream, but they never do. Let me ask you, which one do you want to be? The one who lets fear write their story, or the one who takes the pen and writes it themselves? Every single person who has ever succeeded has felt the same fear you do. The only difference is they didn't let it stop them. And neither should you. Let me tell you something, failure is not the end of the road. It's not a verdict that says you're not good enough. It's feedback, a lesson, a challenge. But too many people see failure as a wall instead of a stepping stone. They take a single setback and use it as proof that they should quit. But that's not how progress works. Think about a baby learning to walk. They don't fall once and decide, well, maybe walking just isn't for me. No, they get up. They try again and again and again. This failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of success. Every failure gives you something: knowledge, experience, resilience. If you're willing to learn from it, failure will guide you exactly where you need to go. You see, the only real failure is refusing to try. Every time you let fear of failure stop you, you lose. But when you treat failure as feedback, you take back control. You analyze, adjust, and come back stronger. That's how growth happens. Look at the most successful people in history. Do you think they just woke up one day and achieved greatness? No, they failed over and over again. And that's exactly why they succeed. Take Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about his failures, he didn't say, I failed. He said, I found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's the mindset of a winner. Or look at Michael Jordan, cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine if he had taken that as a sign that he wasn't good enough. Instead, he used it as fuel. He practiced harder, pushed himself further, became one of the greatest athletes of all time. J.K. Rowling, rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Oprah Winfrey, fired from her first television job. Steve Jobs, kicked out of his own company before coming back and transforming the world of technology. The pattern is clear. Those who achieve the greatest success also endure the greatest failures. But they refuse to quit. They refuse to let failure define them. Instead, they use it to sharpen their skills, refine their vision, and push forward with even more determination. So ask yourself, are you willing to fail as much as it takes to win? Because that's the price of success. What if I told you that failure isn't the enemy? What if I told you it's actually your greatest teacher? Because here's the truth, failure only hurts when you fight it. But when you embrace it, when you see it as a tool, everything changes. Imagine you're climbing a mountain and you slip. You fall. Do you stay down and say, well, I guess I'm not meant to climb? No, you get up. You adjust your grip. You find a better foothold. And each time you slip, you get better at climbing. That's how life works. Every failure is just another step forward if you choose to see it that way. The problem isn't failure. The problem is the way we've been taught to fear it. But what if you stopped seeing failure as a loss and started seeing it as progress? What if instead of feeling embarrassed by your mistakes, you felt empowered by them? Suddenly fear loses its grip on you. Suddenly every challenge becomes an opportunity. So the next time you fail, don't ask, why did this happen to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Because the people who win in life aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who refuse to stop. The ones who take every fall and use it to rise higher. Change your mindset and you change your life. Because failure isn't a verdict, it's just the beginning. Every challenge is a weight you can lift, or avoid. Life doesn't hand out strength for free. Strength is earned. And the currency, struggle. Every challenge you face is like a weight sitting in front of you. You have two choices: lift it and grow stronger, or walk away and stay the same. And let me tell you something, if you keep walking away, eventually life will put so much weight on your shoulders that you won't have a choice. You'll either break under it or wish you had started lifting sooner. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone at the gym loading up a barbell and just staring at it, hoping muscles will appear on their body? No, they get under that weight, they struggle, they push. And over time they grow. Life works the same way. The obstacles you face, the rejections, the failures, the disappointments, they are the weights of life. And the more you lift, the stronger you become. But here's the catch: most people avoid the weight. They dodge responsibility, fear failure, and run from discomfort. They don't realize that every time they avoid a challenge, they choose weakness over strength. They choose to stay the same instead of becoming more. So ask yourself, are you lifting? Or are you avoiding? Let's be real, resistance sucks. It's uncomfortable, it makes you question yourself. It makes you want to quit. But do you know what happens when you push through it? You grow. Every champion, every leader, every success story you admire, they all have one thing in common: resistance. They didn't get there because things were easy. They got there because things were hard and they pushed anyway. Look at anyone who has ever built something great. They faced rejection, they faced setbacks. They faced days where they wanted to throw in the towel, but they kept going, and that's what made them unstoppable. Imagine an oak tree in the middle of a storm. The wind is howling, the rain is relentless, and yet that tree stands firm. Why? Because its roots have been tested. That's what resistance did. Test your roots. It forces you to deeper, to hold stronger, to grow beyond what you thought was possible. But most people fear resistance. They want the easy route. They want shortcuts. They want results without struggle. And that's why they stay weak. If you avoid resistance, you avoid growth. But if you face it, if you push against it, if you embrace it, you come out the other side unshakable. If you never struggle, you never grow. Struggle is the price of progress. There is no growth without it. Look around. Everything in nature that grows to a muscle, to a human being, grows because of pressure, resistance, and struggle. Think about a baby learning to walk. They fall over and over again, then you struggle. But do they quit? No. They get back up, they try again, and one day they walk. And yet, as occults, we somehow convince ourselves that struggle means we should stop, that failure means we aren't good enough. But that's a lie. Struggle isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of progress. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you struggled for something? When was the last time you fought through frustration, through doubt, through failure? Because if you're not struggling, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're staying the same. And staying the same is the fastest way to fall behind. So stop fearing struggle. Stop running from it. Lean into it. Embrace every time you push through, you become more. And that's the goal, isn't it? To be more, to grow. To become something greater than you were yesterday. You want strength. Lift the weight. You want power. Face the resistance. You want growth. Struggle for it. Because the life you want isn't given, it's built. The first step to overcoming fear is proving it wrong. Fear is a liar. It whispers in your ear, convincing you that you're not ready, that you'll fail, that you don't have what it takes. But let me tell you something: fear doesn't deal in truth, it deals in limitation. And the only way to shut it down is to prove it wrong. Think about the last time fear held you back. Maybe it told you that you'd embarrass yourself if you spoke up. Maybe it convinced you that you weren't good enough to chase that dream. And what did you do? You hesitated. You stepped back instead of forward. But what if just once you had pushed through? What if you had acted despite the fear? Fear doesn't vanish on its own. It only fades when you take action. Because the moment you do the thing you're afraid of, fear loses its grip. You realize it wasn't as big as it seemed. You realize you're stronger than you thought. And that's the first step to prove action that fear is wrong. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's built. Brick by brick. Action by action, win by win. Too many people wait for confidence before they act, but that's not how it works. You don't feel ready first, you act first. And in that action, confidence grows. Let's break it down. Have you ever seen a child learning to walk? They don't start by running. They take a shaky step, they fall, they get up. One step becomes two. Two become 10. Before you know it, they're unstoppable. That's exactly how confidence works. It starts with one small win. Just one. And it doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting when you'd normally stay quiet. Maybe it's committing to 5 minutes of exercise instead of talking yourself out of it. Maybe it's sending that message, making that call, showing up when every excuse tells you to stay back. One small win today turns into another tomorrow. And before you know it, you're stacking victories. You're building momentum. And that momentum turns into confidence that nobody can take from you. This is the moment where excuses die. This is where change begins. Right now, I want you to think of one fear that's been holding you back. Just one. Got it. Good. Now, what's one action you can take to past it? It doesn't have to be big, but it has to be real. Something you can do today, right now, to prove to yourself that fear doesn't own you. Because here's the truth, if you don't challenge fear, it will control choices, shrink your world, and keep you stuck in a life smaller than the one you're meant for. But the moment you push back, the moment you take action, that's when everything changes. So what's it going to be? One fear, one action right now. Are you in, or are you in, or are you out, or are you out? Knowledge is powerless without action. What will you do next? Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Knowledge alone won't change your life. You can read every book, watch every motivational video, and memorize every success principle out there, but if you don't act, it means nothing. Knowledge is like an unused weapon, powerful but useless if left untouched. Think about this. How many times have you known exactly what you needed to do but didn't do it? You knew you should wake up earlier, but you hit snooze. You knew you should work on your goals, but you scrolled through your phone instead. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. It's like standing at the starting line of a race, knowing the entire track layout, but never taking a single step forward. The people who succeed aren't necessarily the smartest, they're the ones who act. They take what they know and apply it. They stumble, they fail, they learn, and they adjust. But most importantly, they keep moving, because action, even imperfect action, beats inaction every time. So the real question isn't what you know, it's what you're willing to do with it. Right now, at this very moment, what will you do next? Will you take a step toward the life you want? Or will you keep waiting, keep hesitating, keep watching others move ahead while you stand still? The difference between those who succeed and those who stay the same success is not magic. It's not luck. And it's definitely not reserved for a chosen few. The only thing separating those who achieve their dreams from those who achieve their doing is what they do with their time and energy and their mindset. The ones who succeed, they do the hard things. They show up when they don't feel like it. They push past doubt, fear, and failure. They don't waste time making excuses. They spend time making progress. The ones who stay the same, they wait. They wait for the right moment, the right motivation, the right feeling. They wait for a perfect plan, a guarantee that everything will work out. But here's the truth, perfection doesn't exist. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. Look at the great athletes, entrepreneurs, artists. Every single one of them started from a place of uncertainty. They didn't have all the answers, but they moved anyway. They failed forward, they learned, and they kept going. Meanwhile, the ones who stayed in their comfort zones, they remained exactly where they were watching, wishing, wondering what it could have been. So ask yourself, which side are you on? Are you the one taking steps, or are you the one standing still? The difference is a choice, your choice. Right now, in this very moment, you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to change, growth, and everything you say you want. The other, it leads right back to where you've always been. And the only thing that determines which path you take is what you decide to do next. Think about it, every great transformation starts with one defining moment, one decision, one turning point. But here's the catch, most people don't recognize their turning point when it's right in front of them. They let it slip by. They say, I'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year. Until one day they wake up and realize they never started at all. This is your wake-up call. Your chance to make a move. Your chance to break free from the cycle of hesitation and step into the life you were meant to live. But no one can take that step for you. No one can force you to move. It has to come from you. So what will you do? Will you take the path that leads to change, or will you turn back to comfort, to root, to the same old story you've been living? This moment is yours. Own it. Act on it. And never look back. Let's get something straight. No one is coming to save you. Not your friends, not your family, not society, and certainly not some magical stroke of luck. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, the right opportunity, or someone to pull you out of your struggles, you're wasting time. The harsh truth is this, your life is your responsibility. Every decision you make, every action you take or don't take creates the reality you live in. You can blame your circumstances, your past, or the hand you were dealt, But at the end of the day, it's still on you. That might sound brutal, but it's also freeing, because the moment you accept responsibility for your life, you take back control. Think about every successful person you admire started from somewhere, and most of them didn't have an easy road. They weren't handed success, they built it. They faced obstacles, failures, rejection. But instead of waiting for someone to fix their problems, they took action. They decided that their future wasn't going to be dictated by their past. And that decision changed everything. Let me tell you something, life doesn't wait. It doesn't pause while you hesitate, overthink, or make excuses. If you refuse to move, to push, to fight for more, you will stay exactly where you are stuck, frustrated and wondering nothing changes. Success isn't about luck. It's about movements. It's about taking that first step, then the next, and the next uncomfortable even when you don't feel ready. Because the truth is, you will never feel 100% ready. Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you push past it. Look at anyone who has achieved anything significant. They weren't the smartest in the room. They weren't the most talented. They weren't the best connected. What they did have was the courage to move. They took risks, they failed, they learned. And they kept going when most people would have quit. So ask yourself, are you willing to rise? Are you willing to fight for your future? Because if you don't, no one else will. And if you stay where you are, you'll wake up years from now stuck in the same place wishing you had started today. What makes the top 1% different? It's not just hard work. It's not just discipline. It's how they think. Most people let their emotions control them. They let fear dictate their actions. They seek comfort over challenge. They chase instant gratification instead of long-term success. And that's why they stay stuck. The top 1%. They think differently. They control their mindset of letting their mindset control them. They train their minds like athletes train their bodies daily, relentlessly with intention. They don't wait for motivation, they build habits. They don't complain about obstacles, they find solutions. They don't see failure as an endpoint, they see it as a lesson. And most importantly, they don't make decisions based on how they feel in the moment. They make decisions based on where they want to be in the future. That's the difference. That's the mindset shift. And once you make it, everything changes. So the question is, are you ready to think like the 1%? Are you ready to stop waiting, stop complaining, and start acting? Because once you do, the life you want isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Why success is built on small, consistent decisions. Success isn't about a single moment of glory. It's not about one big break, one lucky opportunity, or one perfect plan. It's built brick by brick on the small, consistent decisions you make every single day. Think about it. Every world-class athlete, every self-made, groundbreaking, they didn't wake up one day and find themselves at the top. They got there by showing up, by making the right choices when no one was watching, by doing the work even when it was boring, exhausting, or inconvenient. It's the choice to wake up early and train when no one else will. The choice to work on your craft instead of wasting hours on distractions. The choice to push through discomfort instead of looking for an easy way out. And here's the truth, these choices won't always feel significant. They won't feel like they're changing your life, but they are. Every single one of them is stacking up, creating momentum, building your future. Because success doesn't happen in a moment, it's the result of thousands of unseen decisions compounded over time. So ask yourself, what are you choosing today? Because your future is not built on what you do once in a while. It's built on what you do consistently. Momentum is power. When you start moving, when you take action, things begin to shift. One step turns into two. Two turns into 10. And before you know it, you're unstoppable. But here's the key, momentum doesn't start by itself. You have to create it. It starts with the first action. Not the perfect action. Not the smartest strategy, just action. Because hesitation is the killer of progress. The longer you wait, the harder it gets to start. But the moment you move, the moment you take that first step to break through the resistance that's been holding you back. Think of a heavy train sitting still. It takes massive effort to get it rolling. But once it starts moving, stopping it is nearly impossible. Your journey works the same way. At first, it will feel slow. It will feel difficult. You'll doubt yourself. But if you keep going, if you refuse to stop, the momentum will take over. This is why the most successful people in the world don't just wait for motivation. They move first. They act. And the action creates the motivation, not the other way around. So what's stopping you from taking that first step? Fear? Doubt? Perfectionism? Let it go. Take the step anyway. Because once you do, you'll realize something powerful. Movement creates progress, and progress creates confidence. And confidence, that makes you unstoppable. Repetition rewires your mind. Start now. Keep going if you want to change your life. Change what you do every day. Because repetition isn't just about practice, it's about programming your mind for success. Your brain is like a muscle. Every time you repeat an action, every time you choose discipline over comfort, you strengthen the neural pathways that make that choice easier the next time. This is how habits are built. This is how winners are made. Look at the best in any field. They didn't just work hard once or twice. They committed to a relentless cycle of repetition. Kobe Bryant didn't take a few shots, he took thousands. Elon Musk didn't think about innovation occasionally, he obsessed over it daily. Every great musician, athlete, entrepreneur knows this truth. What you do repeatedly, you become. And this works both ways. If you repeat excuses, you'll master quitting. If you repeat procrastination, you'll master hesitation. If you repeat self-discipline, you'll master success. So the question is, what are you wiring into your mind? Are you repeating the actions that lead to greatness, or are you reinforcing the habits that hold you back? There is no secret formula. There is no shortcut. There is only the work. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Until one day, what was once difficult becomes automatic. And what was once impossible becomes inevitable. Start now. Keep going. Never stop. There comes a moment in every person's life when they stand at a crossroads. A moment where the excuses run out, the distractions fade, and the truth stares back at them like a mirror they can't turn away from. That moment is now. And the question you must ask yourself is simple. Who will you become? Not who you were yesterday, not who the world expects you to be, not who your doubts whisper you are, but who you choose to be. Because make no mistake, it is a choice. Some people wake up and let life push them around like a leaf in the wind. Others wake up, plant their feet, and decide they're going to shape their own destiny. The difference isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't privilege. It's the choice to act. Right now, in this very second, you have two options. To keep living as you always have, hoping something changes, or to step up and take control. Because if you don't choose, life will choose for you. And life doesn't care about your dreams. It will drag you wherever the current flows, unless you take the wheel and steer. So ask yourself, are you just going to exist, or are you going to live with purpose? Are you going to stay stuck in hesitation, or are you going to step forward and own your future? Because this moment, this choice, you are trading potential for regret. You are handing over your power to fear, to laziness, to doubt. And let me tell you something, they will take everything you give them and still demand more. How many dreams have died because someone said, man, I'll start next week? How many people look back on their lives and wish they had just taken that first step when they had the chance? Regret is the heaviest burden a person can carry. And the longer you wait, the heavier it gets. You think waiting makes things easier? No, it makes the mountain steeper. The more you delay, the harder it is to break free. But the rewards of stepping up, they are limitless. When you take control of your choices, something changes inside you. You build confidence, you gain momentum, and you start realizing just how powerful you really are. You stop feeling like life is happening to you, and instead you become the force that makes things happen. The people who change their lives aren't the ones with the most talent or the perfect conditions. They're the ones who refuse to keep waiting. They're the ones who make a decision and commit to it like their life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. So what will it be? The slow poison of regret, or the fire of progress? The weight of what if, or the thrill of I did it, the cost is high either way. But only one path leads to the life you actually want. No more waiting, no more excuses, no more someday. You don't need permission to start, you don't need the perfect plan, you don't need to feel ready, you just need to move. Because action creates momentum. Momentum creates results, and results create the life you were meant to live. You're waiting for a sign, this is it. If you're waiting for the right time, you're looking at it. If you're waiting for someone to push you, consider yourself pushed. Your time is not tomorrow. Your time is not when things settle down. Your time is now. So stand up, make the decision, and take that first step, because a year from now, 5 years from now, you will look back at this moment and realize it was the day everything changed. No more waiting, no more wishing, no more wondering. It starts right now.